Imagine a world where wind has teeth, where the desert itself growls at the edges of your village and the night presses on the reed door like a living thing. In ancient Mesopotamia, the land between the Tigris and Euphrates, people did not shrug at terror. They carved it into clay, gave it a face, a name, and a set of rules. Demons were not just monsters. They were maps of drought and fever, miscarriage and madness, hunger, plague, and the shattering, invisible forces that could strip a life bare before sunrise. Tonight we will walk into that world. We will open the tablet chests of priests and healers. We will listen to incantations meant to lash storms, to bind nightmares, to coax breath back into the small, sleeping body of a child. You will meet Pazuzu, the howling wind with a scorpion's tail, feared by many, yet invited into homes as a guardian against worse things. You will face Lamashtu, the terrible mother who hunts mothers, whose hunger is the shadow under the cradle. And you will see how a civilization learned the oldest spiritual technology there is. If you can name a fear, you can negotiate with it. This is not a museum tour. It is a survival manual written in the oldest handwriting on Earth. We will decode why these spirits looked the way they did, why they rose from deserts and rivers and thresholds, and why the remedy for a demon was often another demon, placed strategically like a spiritual firewall. We will track how incantation bowls, amulets, and ritual gestures functioned as psychological armor and community medicine, centuries before those words existed. By the end, you will understand that Mesopotamian demons were mirrors. They reflected a people's most intimate anxieties and offered practical systems to live through them. If you have ever tried to outpace a fear by pretending it wasn't there, the old ones would give you different counsel. Turn, face it, speak its secret name, and bargain. Ready to enter the sandstorm and learn the terms? Say the word and we'll begin. Between the rivers, fear had a grammar. The scribes pressed it into clay with wedge-shaped signs, and the priests recited it in cadenced breaths. In Sumer, Akkad, Assyria, and Babylon, what we called demons were catalogued alongside winds, eclipses, and fevers, because the Mesopotamians treated terror as a measurable force. Their world was orderly only when every threat had a name and a procedure. The exorcist, called the āšipu or Maqlû, stood at the border between household and wilderness, negotiating with beings older than cities. He worked with the ASU, the physician, and the baru, the diviner. One read symptoms, one mixed remedies, one read fate. Between them, a cosmology became a clinic. Tablets preserve entire series devoted to these entities and their remedies. The Utukku Lemnutu texts address the evil spirits that slip through doors and dreams. Surpu, the burning, cleanses curses like ash blown from a brazier. Maqlû, also burning, is a night-long rite to unravel witchcraft with fire, water, and clay images. The famed diagnostic handbook SA.GIG, organized by the scholar SA.GIG, lists signs on the body and in the sky, then assigns likely causes, often a god's displeasure or a marauding demon, and prescribes ritual countermeasures. In this worldview, illness is not random. It is a message delivered by an intermediary, and messages can be answered. The cast of beings was diverse. Some were hostile, like the Galu who drag souls to the underworld, the Asaku that ride a fever, the Alu that steals sleep. Some were protective, like the Sadu and Lamashtu, those winged, human-faced bulls still guarding museum halls. And then there are paradoxical figures such as Pazuzu, whose canine lion face, fur wings, and scorpion tail mark him as a desert storm incarnate. People feared him, yet hung his image over cradles and thresholds because he restrained something worse. That worse was Lamashtu, a lion-faced, taloned huntress of mothers and infants, depicted gripping serpents, nursing a pig and a dog, standing on a donkey, a collage of untamed appetite. Her plaques and amulets are warnings and locks at once. Context matters. Mesopotamia endured dust storms, malaria-bearing marshes, crop-ruining winds, high infant mortality, and the ever-present anxiety of empire and flood. Demons personified these pressures so that they could be addressed. A Pazuzu head on a cord is not superstition, so much as an early risk management device. a spiritual mask worn to frighten off a predator. Incantation bowls buried beneath floors, foundation deposits of apotropaic figurines, and Namburbi rituals that cancel ominous portents. These are technologies for keeping chaos outside the door. Philosophically, the line between God, demon, and ghost is permeable. A demon is often a divine function detached from a god's stable identity. The fever, not the sun. The squall, not the sky. This is why remedies are dialogic. The āšipu addresses the being by its epithets, recounts its domains, offers substitutions, and binds it by higher names. Usually Enki/Ea, Lord of sweet water and cunning, or Samus, Lord of justice and light. The cosmos is a negotiated order. Even malevolent forces have jurisdictions, and ritual speaks to jurisdiction. It is important not to confuse names that sound alike. Lamashtu, the gate guardian, is protective. Lamashtu is predatory. Likewise, demon in Greek thought can be neutral or guiding, whereas the Mesopotamian etymologies lean toward operative forces of harm that can be redirected. Yet the deeper idea is shared. Unseen intelligences bridge human and cosmic weather. To live well, you learn their rules. With this framework, Pazuzu and Lamashtu cease to be myths on a shelf and become the passwords of a living system. In the next section, we will meet them up close, how they were summoned, constrained, and turned from terror into treaty. Begin with Pazuzu because he teaches the oldest paradox. The storm can be harnessed to guard the house. His image is a composite of threats: gaunt body, taloned feet, a face stretched into a canine lion snarl, for wings that suggest sudden weather, and a scorpion tail that remembers the desert. On small bronze heads and plaques, an inscription often proclaims him son of the king of the wind spirits, a declaration of rank rather than reassurance. No one confused him for kind, and yet mothers hung his face over the cradle, travelers wore him on cords, and doorways bore his profile like a watchman. Why? Because Mesopotamians understood apotropaic logic. A mask of terror can terrify terror itself. Pazuzu's jurisdiction is the hot, disease-bearing wind that sweeps in from the west and south, the breath that dries grain and stirs fevers. But his most famous function is to repel Lamashtu. Imagine a culture where childbirth is perilous, where fever and hemorrhage are frequent, where infants can vanish between dusk and dawn. Lamashtu is that fear with claws. She's depicted with a lioness head and wild mane, long fingers tipped with talons, clutching serpents, nursing a pig and a dog, and standing on a donkey. The iconography of appetite without discipline. She stalks beds, drinks milk, fouls wombs, and steals breath. She is not a messenger of a god's displeasure. She is her own will. That makes her uniquely dangerous. The remedy is a theater of reversal. The āšipu fashions a small Lamashtu plaque, places offerings, bread, dates, water, and recites her names to draw her attention. Then, with the aid of Pazuzu's image, he commands her to accept substitutes. A clay figurine, a bundle of wool, a handful of flour. In some rites, the plaque is carried to the river at dawn, washed, and cast away so that the current bears off her hunger. In others, a string with a Pazuzu head is knotted and hung above the mother, a visible sign that a more terrible hunter is already here. The psychological wisdom is precise. When panic swells, give the mind an image stronger than the panic, and a sequence of actions that turn dread into movement. Notice how materials matter. Bronze remembers fire. Water jars remember the sweet underground streams of Ea. Bitumen and clay remember the earth that records oaths. The objects are not mere props. They are signatures of the elements enlisted. Gesture matters too. Raising the right hand, lowering the left, stepping over threshold lines, circling a bed counterclockwise. Each motion writes a boundary in the air. The demon's contract is enforced by jurisdiction. Winds answer to Pazuzu, rivers to Ea, dawn to Samus. The right calls witnesses. Pazuzu's protective role also reframes the meaning of evil. In Mesopotamia, evil often means out of place. The same wind that cools a field at evening becomes a killer when it arrives at the wrong hour or from the wrong quarter. Ritual does not attempt to destroy wind. it tries to reset it to its lane. Thus the exorcist's repeated formulae. Do not come near, do not approach, turn back, go out through the window you entered. Even the command presumes a rule that can be obeyed because the cosmos is governed. Consider the threshold. Doors, windows, roof openings, these are the legal crossings of a house. Many texts instruct that amulets be affixed at thresholds, buried beneath floors, or hung at the head and foot of the bed. The message is simple and brilliant. If affliction travels like weather, then you fortify the weather's paths. Pazuzu at the door is a customs officer of the invisible. Lamashtu may prowl, but she must face inspection. There is also the ethic of naming. When the āšipu lists Lamashtu's epithets, devourer, drinker, strangler, he is not indulging in horror. He is circumscribing her. Each name is a wall. Likewise, when he praises Pazuzu as restrainer and boundary keeper, he is sanding down the roughness of evil wind into a usable tool. If you've ever given your anxiety a schedule, you can visit me for 10 minutes and then leave. You have understood the spirit of these rites more than you think. In this first half, we've met the polarity that organizes Mesopotamian demonology. Fear given a face, and fear restrained by a fiercer face. In the next half, we'll widen the cast. Alu that smother sleep, Asaku that ride fever, Galu that pull toward the underworld, and see how household magic, temple liturgy, and state power braid into a single survival system. When you're ready, we'll step deeper into their ranks and the strategies built to meet them. Widen the circle and you find a taxonomy of pressure points in the human day. The Alu spirit waits at the seam between waking and sleep. Texts describe it as a presence that covers the head, a blank-faced thing that presses on chest and breath. Anyone who has felt the paralysis of a night terror knows its signature. The remedy draws on light and orientation. Lamps kept burning, protective words fixed at the bed's headboard, doors barred not just with wood but with names. The āšipu walks the perimeter of a room and speaks like a surveyor. This is east, this is west. Because disorientation is Alu's doorway. Order the space and you thin the fog it feeds on. Fever belongs to the Asaku and its cognate Ahazu. The Caesar, it is imagined as a rider that mounts a body, spurs blood, and dries the tongue. Here, ritual and medicine braid tightly. Alongside fumigations, poultices, and drafts, the priest makes a clay image of the rider, ties its limbs, and leashes it to a stake while invoking Ie and Gula, Lady of Healing. If the body is a house, Asaku is an intruder who must be shown a binding. If the body is a field, he is the blight who must be redirected to a wasteland where no one lives. The language is practical. Not cosmic melodrama but property law. Then there are the Galu, the underworld bailiffs. They drag wanderers toward the gates of Ereshkigal, not with chains but with events. Cascading misfortune, sudden losses, the gravity of despair. Their antidote is witness and substitution. Offerings to the dead, water poured at the threshold, names of ancestors recited aloud. Because unremembered dead pull, remembered dead protect. The ceremony teaches an ethic. Keep your graves tended, your lines in order. Grief unattended opens doors you do not want opened. Not every affliction is impersonal. Some texts aim at Rabisu, the lurker at corners. Others at Lilu and Lilitu, windborne seducers and drainers who ride loneliness as Asaku rides fever. Their cures are intimate. Perfumes, braided cords, talismans engraved with "Do not approach," a rearranged sleeping place, even counsel on conduct. A surprising number of incantations instruct cleanliness, timely offerings, restraint in speech. Morality in this frame is not a sermon, it is demonology. A mouth that slanders invites a slanderer. A promise broken invites a breaker. Household magic and temple liturgy interlock like fingers. In the home, you bury small figurines at thresholds. Fish-cloaked sages, Maqlû, who teach order. Lion centaur Kuzuriku who wrestle wildness. Dog figurines of Gula that knows out illness. In the temple, you scale the same idea into architecture. Colossal Lamashtu at palace gates. Reliefs of kings grasping lions as if to model the citizen's inner work. The state enacts apotropaic order in stone so the home can echo it in clay. When the king purifies a city gate before campaign season, he is performing Maqlû at scale, binding sorcery, canceling ill omens, hiring the cosmos as his guard. Contradictions are part of the system's sophistication. Lamashtu is not a vassal of any major god. She is willful, almost divine, a demon goddess who answers to force and oath more than to supplication. Pazuzu is vicious and yet emblematic of protection. Evil is not a fixed essence here. It is misalignment. A wind that strikes at the wrong hour, a guest who steps over the threshold unrinsed, a word spoken out of season. These become spirit paths. That's why remedies are timed to dawn and dusk, keyed to lunar days, or calibrated to eclipses. Time itself is a door that can be locked or left open. The legalism of the rites is striking. Incantations read like contracts. Identification, you who devour, drink, strangle. Jurisdiction, the street is yours, the bed is not. Witnesses, Ea, Samus, the river, the brick, penalties, return by the window by which you came, and performance, washing, burning, burying. Even the geography participates. Rivers are for carrying away, deserts for banishment, ruins for binding what should not roam amid the living. You do not argue metaphysics with a dust storm. You file a restriction order and post it at the door. Lesser-known aspects sharpen the picture. Many plaques show Lamashtu with a comb and spindle. She tangles threads, she cuts destinies. The cure? A counterweaving. Women gather to spin and sing protective names, reasserting social fabric against her isolating hunger. Some Pazuzu amulets carry a nail hole. They are meant to sway and clack in the breeze, a little weather vane announcing that the house is already under the watch of the wind's prince. Sound itself becomes a boundary. At the core, Mesopotamian demonology is a pedagogy of agency. You cannot stop the river from flooding, but you can raise the threshold and teach your children the names of the currents. You cannot guarantee a safe birth, but you can place a fierce face over the cradle and rehearse a community into readiness. The rites instruct a body to stand where chaos blinks first. At doors, bedsides, crossroads, beginnings. Hold that map in mind. In the next section, we'll translate it into a modern kit: actions, words, and attitudes that preserve the old insight without pretending to live in a mud-brick house. The winds still blow. The contracts can still be written. You don't live in a mud-brick house, but the winds haven't changed. Here is a modern kit drawn from Mesopotamian practice. Simple, repeatable, and respectful of both psyche and spirit. Use these as experiments, not superstitions. And remember, none of this replaces medical care. It complements it. 1. Name the wind. Write the contract. When a fear spikes, give it a face and a jurisdiction. On a small card, write, "You are the hot wind. Panic that arrives in my chest at night. Your domain is the hallway and the street. The bed is not your domain." Add terms. You may visit for 5 minutes at 9 p.m. on Tuesdays. You must depart by the breath you entered. Sign it. Place it by your door. This is not childish. It's procedural thinking for the nervous system. You've turned haze into policy. 2. Seal the thresholds. Once a week at dusk, walk the perimeter of your home clockwise. Touch doors, windows, vents. Say out loud, "This is east. This is west. This is the boundary." Mist the frames with water and a pinch of salt, as sweet water and the earth. If you like, hang a small, fierce face near the door. Any symbol of protective intensity works. A lion, a hawk, even a stylized wind mask. You draw yourself. You're training your attention to recognize crossings and to keep chaos in its lane. 3. Night watch protocol. For Maqlû-type disturbances. If you wrestle with anxious nights or sleep paralysis, prepare the room before dark. Leave a low lamp on. Light is Samus. Place a card at the head of the bed with a single line. Breath is the boundary. If the pressure comes, don't debate it. Exhale slowly to a count of 6, hold 2, inhale 4, 6 rounds. Then recite 3 orienting facts. My name is Undersur. I'm in Undersur. It is night turning to morning. Maqlû feeds on disorientation. Orientation starves it. 4. Fever rider protocol, 4 surges of stress. When agitation rides you, racing thoughts, hot face. Make a tiny figure from paper or clay. Wrap it once with string. Then tie the string to a spoon or pen stuck upright in a cup. Say, "You are the rider. I bind you to the post until the sun crosses 2 fingers." Set a timer for 10 to 15 minutes. While it runs, drink water, rinse hands in cool water, and step outside if possible. When the timer ends, unwind the string and say, "Return to the road that is yours." You've given your biology a ritual container and an endpoint. 5. The river takes it. For intrusive loops. Write the looping thought in 1 sentence. Fold it small. Hold a bowl of water. Read the sentence once, then place the paper beneath the bowl, not in it. Say, "River hears. River carries." After 3 breaths, pour the water down a sink or onto soil. Dispose of or burn the paper later. Do this at dawn or dusk for added symbolism. The day itself is changing shifts, and so can the mind. 6. Remember you're dead. Tend your line. If life feels pulled toward ruin, gravity, set a monthly ancestor hour. Light a candle, speak the names you know, thank them, and pour a little water into a plant. Even if you know no names, say, "To all who brought me here, witness me." The remembered dead protect. The unremembered tug. 7. Social demonology. Ethics as warding. For 7 days, practice 3 vows. No slander, no broken appointments, no late-night doom-scrolling. These are modern spirit paths. Break any one and note what intrudes. Tension, shame, restless energy. Then repair. Apology sent, appointment reset, phone outside the bedroom. You are adjusting lanes, not scolding yourself. 8. Keep a Pazuzu list. List 3 fierce images, songs, or phrases that reliably stiffen your spine. When dread swells, deploy one for 60 seconds. This is apotropaic logic. A strong face to face a strong fear. Rotate them so none grows stale. Common obstacles. Skepticism. Treat these as cognitive somatic drills with mythic wrappers. Results matter, not belief. Inconsistency. Tie a practice to an existing habit. Seal thresholds right after taking out the trash. Isolation. Invite one friend or housemate to join a weekly dusk round. Community is half the spell. Use the old grammar freely. Name, boundary, witness, release. The winds still answer when called by their right titles. When you're ready, we'll close with what to remember. Firelight, river, and the door that stays shut. Fire, water, wind, and clay. That is the grammar we inherited from the oldest cities. Mesopotamia taught that fear is not an abyss but a frontier with gates, witnesses, and rules. We met Pazuzu, the storm's snarl turned watchman. We faced Lamashtu, the hunger that stalks mothers and breath. We named the Alu that presses sleep, the Asaku that rides fever, the Galu that pull toward the ash-gray fields. And we learned the deeper lesson beneath their claws. Disorder is powerful when it is faceless. It weakens when it is given a jurisdiction and a contract. You saw how thresholds matter: doors, windows, the edge of a bed, the hour before dawn. You saw how names matter, epithets that pin a force long enough to bind it to its rightful road. You saw how witnesses matter: light as Samus, water as Ea, ancestors who turn gravity into guidance. The rites were never only theater. They were technologies of attention, somatic anchors for a nervous system that already knows how to survive a storm if you give it a mast to tie to. Carry forward what works. When panic gusts, don't debate the wind. Face it, name it, time it, release it. When nights are heavy, orient the room and light a small sun. When life tilts toward ruin, pour water for your dead and let them remember you back into place. Seal your thresholds with simple acts repeated at the same hour. Let your body learn that boundaries are dependable. Most of all, remember the paradox of Pazuzu, a fierce image guarding a tender life. There is a version of you that can stand at the door with the storm in its teeth and say, "The bed is not your domain." Practice meeting the world from that doorway, not with denial, not with surrender, but with terms. If any part of this speaks to you, choose one practice and keep it for 7 days. Walk your perimeter at dusk. Write one contract. Tend one name. Then watch what changes, not out there first, but in here where winds begin. The oldest demons have not vanished. They have become modern weather. And the oldest remedies are still at hand. A lit lamp, a spoken boundary, a river that knows how to carry things away.